What is your message? Who are you speaking to, and what is it you're hoping that they take from this?
I mean, I just believe in speaking about things that are true. And I think a lot of times as women, we're told that we can just wait forever, get married at 35 and have a bunch of kids, and that's just not true.
Who's saying that?
I just think it's the message.
Women do not get told. Every woman I have ever known has moms and sisters and aunts who are telling her when she's like 20, when are you going to settle down with a nice guy? When are you going to settle down with a nice guy? Come on, you know? Like, I do not, I think the pressure is coming in the opposite direction, as a matter of fact.
Message that's pushed by the media and culture today. So
the media is telling women to get married at 35.
I mean, what have you ever seen? Like, what's a homemaker that's on TV?
What?
You mean like in a sitcom, or you mean like in a
no? But I'm saying like we don't have them in the media and the culture.
Well,
like family really isn't. It's really family really isn't.
Because the average American can't afford to live on a single income. Why would there be? Also, Skylar White. But second of all, yeah, Marge Simpson. Third of all, like the average person can't live in that arrangement. So
pushed. And so I'm not saying it to dog on women, but I just think a lot of times like we're lied to. I mean, we have men are called ageist if they don't want younger women. You know, men are constantly shamed when they have a standard.
What? Wait, what?
So
wait. Men are called ageist if they don't want younger. Did she mean older? She had to have misspoken on some level here. She's defended pedophilia on Twitter before, so there's like an angle to that. It has to be. Oh, I hit the button. She probably misspoke. Probably. Also, guys going after younger girls. The term there isn't ageist. That's not the term people use.
You're speaking to women. You're saying past 22, your value is going down. And,
yes,
and your message,
to men, and your value on the sexual marketplace. So your value, like that.
Pedo shit. The idea that at 23, listen. So the wall's not even at 30 anymore. Now the wall's at 22. Pedo shit, pedo shit. I guess it works more for like, because like most of her audience is like underage boys who hate women. So to them, it's like, oh, 22-year-old. Yeah, that's like ancient, you know. But yeah, pedo shit. Yeah, you hit 23 and it's over. It's fucking over. Maybe for white girls.
And so any woman who's not...
Well, historically, virginity has always been a prerequisite for marriage. Like 100 years ago, 85% of women didn't admit to premarital sex. So, you know, it's more...
Didn't admit to. Plenty of people were having premarital sex. Obviously, they wouldn't admit to it. If you go back far enough, if you admitted to it, then you'd be, I don't know, clubbed by your local constable or something. I don't fucking know. Yeah, people were having premarital sex. People actually have less sex now than they did before. All the evidence we have when it comes to like people having sex young is actually, it's going in the other direction. People are having fewer friends, fewer sexual partners, having sex later, having sex less often, having fewer friends. The idea that it's going in the opposite direction is purely an optics and image thing. Right now we have TikTok and Instagram where we can see young people who look like they're slutting it up. In reality, people have always been slutting it up. We just haven't always had social media. And also in reality, a lot of people who claim to be slutting it up are in fact lying to you. It's an aesthetic. You know, people have always been slutty. It turns out, you know, sex actually does feel kind of good. So that, you know, that's a motivator.
Overall, multiple partners. You would say good for women or bad for women?
I literally cannot answer that question because it makes no sense. It depends on the relationship.
It's like asking like, hey, eating at 3 restaurants or just eating at 1? Like it doesn't, it's a meaningless question. It's like, well, what makes you happy? It changes person to person. And she sleeps around, by the way. Again, all the like trad wife grifter type, like 100%, you know? She knows that. It's just like the young boys who are watching want to believe that controlling every aspect of women's life is for their betterment. The argument that women should be subservient trad wives because it's for their own good is materially no different from the old paternalistic argument that blacks are best kept as slaves because they're patronized by their white owners for their entire lives and kept in conditions better than that which they could create for themselves. It's bullshit, but white people coped hard and tried to convince themselves they were actually doing this for the benefit of the black people they owned. Obviously they weren't. They just wanted free labor, but, you know.
So, I mean, you could if 85% of women were virgins 100 years ago and everyone's on antidepressants, maybe
so was society perfect 100 years ago?
Maybe.
Notice how she went from these women wouldn't admit to premarital sex, and now she's jumped over to they were virgins. Bro, like oh man, it's really dumb. There's a lot of like historical and anthropological research on mating cultures and like virginity and sexuality in like pre-modern society, like medieval Europe and going back further than that. And it's a really, really complicated subject. But the general like gist that I've learned in the little bits that I have read is that people were way, way sluttier than we think they were. Because think of who was writing the books back then that we use as citations for how people acted. Like, do you think the average, like, peasant in the 1400s was, like, describing all of the, something that would have gotten them burned if, like, the local priest came by to look at it? No! This writing was being done by priests! Priests and noblemen. They weren't writing down the experiences of, like, the average fucking, like, medieval peasantry. But the little bits of knowledge that we do have, like, people were slutty as shit. People the idea, like, do you go back to like tribal human society? Do you think tribal humanity was like monogamous? The concept of marriage wasn't discovered in a ditch, like we came up with that. But even after we did, it's not like people just chose one partner for life. It's psychotic. Yes, plenty of people were the village bicycle. If you want to return to returning to tradition, okay, is getting railed by like 6 dudes in your tribe because they're all just finished making bricks out of clay and they need the sun to dry it. All right, that's returning to tradition. Okay, yeah, and then not writing it down.
So I have a bit of a question, and I'm being honest here. Is it possible and you look at men, right, in terms of like their viability? You look at men and say he's a high value man, he's a medium value man, he's a low value man, right? I mean, we could say that. We can put men into those categories. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's say you're in the dating field, right? You're looking for a partner, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, you're single essentially, I guess, and you're looking for a significant.
Maybe not.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
So if you're looking for men, if a man who is willing to settle, let's say you're not that old, but you're 26, and you say that anyone over 25 is like almost damaged goods or getting worse and worse.
No.
It's less valuable. It's less valuable.
Correct. Yes. I would say I was more valuable 5 years ago. Yes. In terms of the dating market. Yes.
So do you think that how can somebody who's older and not a virgin and less valuable, how can they get in a relationship with a man and not think they're a loser? Because if you're a low value woman, then in a sense, you'd be judging the guy who's quote unquote settling for you because he couldn't get a higher value woman. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, a guy that you would settle for would be a loser by your own metrics.
That's pretty good, actually.
What are men supposed to do? 95% of women aren't virgins on their wedding days. You could be a multimillionaire and not get a virgin.
How do you enter a relationship and not think that he's a loser because he's low value?
I don't really know how to answer that question.
Because it's a hole in her ideology, right? So the basic argument that she's making is that like any coupling that is not like a virgin fucking 18-year-old with an older high value male or whatever, like all of those are just like fucked, but she can't answer. It kind of implicates her as well.
Only a low value man, and I'm sorry, I'm only framing this in your worldview. Let's say a medium value man would decide to settle on somebody like you who's a little bit older, not as fertile. You are not a virgin. And also, I'll tell you something else. You like being in the foreground, which is not good for traditional marriages. I mean, he's looking for someone who wants to build a home. You don't know how to cook.
Yeah,
either.
I don't
really
expect to be with like a high value guy. I think that's silly. When I think of high value, I think of like top 5% of men.
So what value do you think you'll be settling on in your own personal life?
What value will I be settling on in my personal
what man do you think is reasonable for you to pursue?
I just I think that's a bit of a inappropriate like question. But...
That's interesting because you spend like all day talking about this stuff. I find that it's really interesting to have you put this analysis into use. Why is it inappropriate?
Because the way you're framing the question is a bit disingenuous.
How?
I think most women
how is it disingenuous?
Yeah, I think it's a bit disingenuous.
Why?
Okay.
Oh my God!
Why is it disingenuous?
So this is not she cannot answer these questions without implicating either herself or her ideology. There's not actually a way. There's no way to thread this needle because the logic is inherently contradictory. So she has to not answer, or she can maybe like lead around and half answer a few times, but she can't actually get to the bottom of this because it won't settle it. It's not good for her.
Because a lot of times we're like we're lied to. We're not even told what men want. Being told that men want younger women is like crazy, even though that's something.
Yeah, dude, nobody says that. I've never heard anyone say that men tend to go after younger women. I'm learning that now, as a matter of fact.
True, by the way. That's not true, by the way.
Men don't want younger women. They want, okay, who's hotter? A 50-year-old is equally as hot as a 20-year-old, just based on looks and nothing else.
So, yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, well, like, obviously that literally depends on the 50 and the 18. Well, like, that's a stupid question to begin with, because there are ugly 18-year-olds and there are hot fucking actors. So this is stupid on so many levels. Guys, okay, look, all right? I know that age gap discourse has reached an incredibly toxic point where, like, people on TikTok are arguing whether or not it's problematic for, like, 18 and 3-month-year-olds to be in a relationship with 18 and 9-month-year-olds. And I'm not going to touch on any of that shit, okay? I'm almost 30, all right? I have my Tinder range set from like 22 to 40 or whatever, okay? If there's some chick who has who just got her bachelor's degree in college, because that's what a 22-year-old is at, more or less, and she wants to get absolutely fucking beaten the fuck out, like back walls just destroyed, I'm not going to look at that DM and go, oh, well, it's actually problematic. The back walls of that should be... No, I don't care. I don't fucking care. I think that if you specifically and actively go after younger people, it's usually reflective of immaturity or predatory intentions on your part. Usually because you're like, you want somebody who's like in a weaker position in life, like socially less developed or economically less developed, and it means that it's easier for you to kind of like lead them around. I don't think that it's necessarily bad for there to be age gaps. Generally speaking, I think the average age gap between men and women for relationships is 3 years. Like, the man is on average 3 years older. That's like, oh, whatever, 3 years, that's fine for two adults. So I don't really see much of an issue with that. It's mostly like the predatory intention of specifically going after younger people. Now, if you're like 40 and you meet a 25-year-old girl who's actually like really sweet and nice and you two get along well, I'm not going to stand in the way of love or whatever. I'm not saying it's always bad, even if there's a large age gap, assuming both of you are adults, obviously. It's mostly the predatory intentions thing to me. And I think it's always something you should keep in mind, because if you leave like this stuff untracked, it can get pretty bad when it comes to like potential exploitation. The thing is, though, man, if you're unironically arguing that like 23-year-old girls are over the wall, you are a pedophile. You are literally a pedophile. 23, there are people who are still rounding out puberty at 23. That is pedo shit. The idea, like, okay, I recently had the fucking displeasure while in downtown of seeing a group of high schoolers, okay? They looked taller, so I'm guessing they were junior or senior year, which means they would have been around 18. You're aware 18-year-olds are literal babies, right? Okay? I didn't think that when I was 18. Now I do, all right? I'm a fucking adult. Pays my own taxes, files the forms, goes down to the auto shop to have the fucking the oil change, tires, brake pads, I'm an adult, okay? The 18-year-olds are these gangly, pimply, wheezy little fucks. They're like alien things, okay? The idea that these things, these creatures are in any way, shape, or form more desirable as partners to a chick who's like in her mid-20s is insane. That is psycho shit. You are mentally ill. Your brain is damaged beyond repair. You are broken. You're a broken person. Not to mention just like talking to people that young, man. Like, because like I've talked to like 23, 22, like just out of college, I'll blow back balls out fine, but like, even that age gap, like 29 to 22 or 23 or whatever, that's significant enough where sometimes I feel like I'm talking to them, but they're a little too goofy goober for my taste. You understand what I'm talking about? I feel like these people do not understand how to file for tax deductions, okay? If I handed these motherfuckers their forms, I feel like they would just look at me confused. There's a gap there. Look, I'm just saying, I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, you sicko, she's 3 days younger than you. However, the ideology that Just Pearly thinks is pushing here is designed to appeal to, again, either young boys who don't mind hearing shit like women peak at 22 because 22 is 10 years older than them, or B, divorced, bitter older men who are probably pedophiles.